Hey everybody, welcome back to the Relentless Sportsman channel. Today I have an exciting video, at least in my opinion, because I get to do two of my favorite things. Build something and talk about hunting strategies. So stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this one. I'm really excited because today what I'm doing is I'm building a permanent, quote unquote, permanent setup for deer hunting with a rifle. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this one. As you can see right here, we have a little creek that flows through the woods. If you've ever been walking next to a creek in the woods, you'll probably notice there's quite a bit of deer activity. It creates a natural transition line. And the good news is, I plan on putting this permanent tree stand back in the woods, really hidden to the best of my ability, overlooking as much of this creek as I possibly can. So once I get this far on my property, it's pretty much impossible to take a riding lawnmower with a trailer, or even a four-wheeler for that matter, to go back where I plan on hunting. There's a whole bunch of puddles, really loose soil that erodes easily, so it's best just to walk back in here. It's best not to use any type of machinery. Plus, you'd probably have to cut a couple trees down to get to where we're going today. Anyway, I've got everything from my floor joists. I have a bucket full of gear that I'm going to use. I have a shovel to dig out some of the footings that we're going to need to do. Skill saw over here. So I've pretty much got everything I need, I think, to build this tree stand to overlook this creek. I'm at the location where I plan on building this. The other day what I did is I put a ledger board in here just like a deck would be against a house. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this come out here as a platform big enough for two people to comfortably sit on. Once I get the platform out to about here, I'm going to need to dig some footings. And what I'm going to do for that is use these concrete blocks here, down here, to help support this. Why this spot? It's because it's high enough off the ground to get you a clear view of this entire creek bottom behind me over here. The creek is going to be running through, and that's an ideal spot for shooting deer, especially with the rifle at long range that way. At first I thought about putting this up in a tree between two trees and just using two ledger boards and putting some joists across that way. But then I thought to myself, that's not going to work because in this particular location, once you get too high in the canopy, you can't see the ground very well, which is obviously where the deer are going to be. In this location, because I've got a hill that's really, really steep, it actually makes it pretty nice. So once I get up there, where I'm standing now on the ground, to up there, I would say is about 8 feet off the ground to where I'm standing now. It sounds silly, but that's actually a better solution than being way up in the tree, way up here, and hiding yourself up in the canopy where you can't see deer across the creek that way. The whole idea is getting those footings securely put in front of it, and then start the building process out from there with the joists and going up to a roof support. Okay, so this is probably the most important step. Remember, the ledger board is back here. It's connected to this tree here with ledger locks. Definitely want to use ledger locks. So what you want to do when you're building something like this is first decide where your footings need to go. What I did is I went straight out this way, and all I did is I put one screw in here just to hold it. Then you're off to a good start. Remember where your board goes down into the ground? You have to dig away a little bit so you can put your blocks underneath here to support this first board. And then you can start putting all the joists in. Now I know that this is not a 4x4, but I don't have a 4x4, so I'm using a 2x6. Okay everybody, this is what I have so far. Pretty difficult to make everything square. Really doesn't have to be. I've got the footing in over there. Steel rod right here to prevent this from moving. It's coming along. It's tough because I'm on a really, really steep hill right now, so my feet, it's not that easy to maintain proper footing. Okay, so here's an update. I've got joists in. Of course, they're back on this ledger board. Because these brackets right here, I know you're supposed to use nails, but I had screws and deck screws, so I'm going to use those. But because those brackets here go here to hold the joists in, these did come out, so I'll just take my grinder and take those off. And this is kind of what it ended up being. The hard thing was you couldn't get this to be square because as easy as it is when you're building a normal deck, these trees kind of go out at an angle, and this ledger board that goes from this tree to that tree is a little flopped out that way, just a little bit. It's not going to really change the structural integrity, but it has been quite a challenge getting all this to work. So as you look at this footing here, it looks a little strange. That's because it is. Remember, I'm only using things I have. Steel rod in front to prevent this from falling this way. Steel rod in the middle of this landscaping brick to prevent it from moving. That should be the strongest one. And a steel rod out here from keeping this from slipping. I was going to use another support beam over here to attach up to this corner, which is right here, from this corner coming down. I don't need to, because this tree comes out at an angle towards the camera here. I actually ended up putting two more ledger locks on this tree, which gives it a ton of support. I mean, you can crank on this board. This corner is solid. This way, as far as like being vertical and everything, it's very level up and down. It's very level horizontally. It's just not square. Whew, okay, so we're getting there. We're getting to the point where we can kind of see exactly how it's going to look when it's done. I still have to add a little bit of walls. I'll show you what I did for the first section of the flooring. Okay, so this is that massively steep hill right here. That's the platform and everything. And then I overlook all of this. Now right now, because everything's green and it's the summer, it's hard to tell. It's a little misleading. It does open up quite a bit when the foliage comes down. It's not super open. It's just thick enough to hold deer throughout the season. I've stepped on here. I've jumped around. I've gone out to that corner. Super solid because of the ledger locks on this tree. You'd be surprised. This one obviously has the footing. Ledger lock back over here. Now this section of 2x6, I left that on there. That's actually pretty nice because when I need to get down the hill to my tools, which is right there, and back up here, it actually gives me something to hold on to pull myself up. It's quite exhausting walking up and down, working on this sand at a weird angle. I really enjoyed, making stuff like this. It's a neat little DIY thing. I still need to camo everything up. I don't want to see it easily in the woods when I'm walking through. I want people to walk past. Not that people do walk past here, it's private land, but if someone were to walk past, I want it to be hard for them to find. I want it to be something they're actively looking for in order to see. We're finally to the point now where we don't have to work off that sandy, steep bank. I can actually work on a flat surface because the floor is mostly done, like 2/3 of the way. So what I'm going to do is go down there and sweep that off. It's always good to keep a clean work surface. If you're new to building anything, keep the surface in the area you're working with. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Once you're done with the tool, put it back. If you don't need it for the rest of the project, get rid of it, put it away, stay organized. It'll help the project move along a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. So to finish up this flooring, I simply just snapped a chalk line over here. And this is going to be the remainder of the flooring that needs to be done. There needs to be a notch over here for the 2x6 supporting beam. Alright, so the front part of the floor is finally done. All I have to do is screw it here around the perimeter and maybe a couple in a joist or two. Alright, so with the floor being installed, you can see obviously there's two different floorings here. This is because these are paneling that I took off an old shed. That's what these are. I didn't have the size that could fill this entire area that I'm standing on. With this crack, if there happens to be any water that does land on this platform, even after the roof is put on, the water should drain through that crack. Alright, so what I'm trying to do right now is make sure that when I'm sitting in a chair, whatever I put in front of me as far as a railing and a wall is low enough that I can shoot over, yet high enough that it hides some movement in case I move around when I shouldn't be. I'm sitting in my chair right now, overlooking where it's going to be. You have to keep in mind it's going to look drastically different in November for gun season. But I made a couple marks here and here. I'm trying to determine what's high enough and what's low enough for putting a railing across, which I'll use this board for right here. So once the railing goes across from that post to that post, I'm going to make sure it's level, and then I'm going to put paneling that I have across here. So this whole thing is going to be a wall about up to this point, because where I shoot is across the creek over there on that side. I need to bring my chair down here so I know exactly how high I'm going to be sitting, because each chair is a little bit different. Each person's a little bit different. So I'm trying to get a good average here for if somebody was shorter than me and they wanted to sit here and hunt, which anyone that knows me is welcome to hunt here, or if somebody's even taller than me, what's going to be comfortable for them seeing out in the distance to take that shot. Alright, so I got my railing installed here. I made sure it was nice and level. That's the main thing, and also that it's low enough for me to shoot over. Alright, so I think I've got the roof figured out for this deer stand. It's not going to be that difficult once it's framed out. This is literally just so it's more comfortable for people to hunt out of. That's it. What you can see is old roofing metal that I got from a job site, one of the jobs I worked on about a year ago. And I'm just going to have to lap it. And that lumber right here on the sawhorses are to support it, simply put. So in other words, I take this sheet right here and I will need to lap it like that. If I didn't do that, one sheet right here, I believe it's 3 feet wide, that's not wide enough to cover the entire platform. Anytime you have old roofing metal given to you, like I did, or somebody is laying on the side of the road, or you're taking it off your house and replacing it and upgrading it. What you want to do is save it. There are so many uses for it. You can use it for wood storage, like I did here. I framed this out. It's really simple. You can also use it for a tree stand, like I'm making right now. You can use it for a doghouse. You can use it for a number of things. You can even use it for some kind of playground roof for your kids, or a tree house or something. So there's infinite uses for that. I highly recommend you save it, even if it doesn't look nice. Usually what you would use it for are things that you don't care what they look like anyway. Just a little tip. All right, so now I finally got some supports for the roof. This is it. I mean, this is stuff I use. I took this out of an old closet we took apart. This is old paneling from a bedroom, some deck board that was laying in a shed when we bought the place. I was treated 2x6. I use those for edging on a garden, but I no longer need it. That paneling floor right there, I took out when I added a door to an outbuilding. And so all of these things, you can see a 2x4, like a stud right there, because there's a hole for the wiring to go through the wall. All of this stuff came from my house at some point, or I used it for another project that I no longer need. If I would have gone to Home Depot or something and bought everything with a list and parted it out and measured everything and done everything absolutely perfect, like you would do if you're working on somebody's home, for example, this would look a lot different. But the fact that I spent literally no money on this other than my time, that was kind of the idea. The deer aren't going to care what you're sitting in. I don't care what I'm sitting in, and nice for other people as well to use. Now, it's not gonna be the nicest thing. I still have to paint it, spray paint it, put a nice pattern on there so it blends into the woods. My ceiling is white. All right, everybody, it's pretty much done. Let me show you what the final product looks like. Of course, there are more things you can do to it. I have put the roof on now. I secured the roof a little bit better by putting another 2x2 across the middle, and I put some spray paint around the outside, added a tarp to block off some sides. I'm not 100% done. What I mean by that is after I hunt out of it for a while, I'm gonna realize what I need for this deer stand. Sometimes you need to use a product for a while to understand how to modify it. Okay, so here we are stepping inside of it. But I did staple this tarp down real tight, which I hooked back up here. I don't like it when tarps blow around in the wind on deer stands or whatever you want to use, so do that. And back here I'm completely blocked. What I mean by that is while I'm sitting in here, down in this position, which is where my head is at right now behind the camera, if I turn this way, I can't see a darn thing and nothing can see me, which is perfect because you're not going to want to shoot in that direction anyway, and deer are literally never there. There's no sign of deer. I've never seen them there ever, and they usually start becoming visible more out this way, so blocking this off was a really, really important thing for me to do. Also, I want to use this as a wind barrier. Now behind the stand, this is kind of like a backdrop, but the good news is I've got a super steep hill back there that acts as a backdrop, so it basically breaks up my outline is what I'm trying to say. When it's breaking up my outline, of course I'm not going to be silhouetted, so that's going to help me blend into my surroundings better, but this tarp is also there for that reason. If it gets too windy, this might move a little bit. I can always take this off. It's just slipped over the hooks right here. And then that steep hill behind me, which I'll tell you what, this camera doesn't do it justice. This is a really, really steep hill. It's very difficult to walk up and down. It's very tiring and you slip all the time walking down it. But anyways, I can use that as well. When I stapled this on, this side, the tarp on this side, you know, I was going to put a wall here, but it wasn't perfectly flat due to the nature of these trees here. So I decided to go with this tarp. I happen to have a brown tarp, not being used at all, laying around. It's definitely used. You can see there's holes in it and stuff. But anyway, on the other side of this tarp, it's brown. This side it's green, and I wanted brown on the outside. I stapled this down super tight with my staple gun. So there's not a lot of give here like there would be on this side back here. So if we do get some wind from that side, it's really going to help keep the wind off of me and be more comfortable throughout the hunt. All right, so now that we're inside, I did touch this up a little bit on the ceiling, as you can see here. Just put some green up there, just so when you're looking at it from down there, you're looking up, it's much less noticeable. Plus, there's hemlock trees above me. So this is the hemlock branch. Hopefully you can see that. And it matches this pretty well. So I kind of wanted to blend in there. Let's go out there and take a look at this now. I'll show you what it looks like from out there, looking back this way, to see how well it blends in. Okay, so with the spray paint, it does make a huge difference. I probably should have done, if I was thinking straight, is done a before and after picture. You can see how well that lumber actually does stick out. It's much brighter than all of these trees around here. Obviously the shape is unnatural, but it really makes a big difference to spray this down. I ran out of brown, which is a really nice color, and gray, which is a nice color. So I ended up doing quite a bit of green on there, and green stands out more than gray and brown, believe it or not, in the woods. But I just used what I had, and I ran out of spray paint now, so that's how it's going to be, at least for the time being. Let's go back a ways and see how well it blends in. Back there, more so from the deer's perspective. Okay, there it is. Now I was standing back there and you can't see anything through there, at least not yet till the foliage is down, but it's right there. That's what it looks like back here from where a deer would possibly be standing. Here's another view off to the side there. I don't know if you can see that right there. So you're pretty well hidden, especially with those two trees on this side of it. That makes it a really, really nice little spot there on the side of that super steep hill. So like I said, at this point I'm finished for now. Obviously I'm going to put a chair here to sit on, kind of modify it a little bit. I might put some little hooks right down here where I can hang a grunt call or something, or a rangefinder, I don't know, stuff like that. You can customize it to fit your needs. If you want to build something like this, it's not that hard. Use what you've got, be creative. You don't need to go to the store and spend $500 in lumber or whatever it would cost to make this. Of course, there are better ways to make this stand. That's obvious. Going to the store and purchasing brand new pieces of lumber specifically for the dimensions of this setup would have been much better. It would have been way easier to work with that, but I had to be creative. It was kind of a fun little DIY challenge that I challenged myself, and I was planning on doing this for about a year now, so I'm glad it finally has been taken care of and it's done. Of course, I'm going to modify it a little bit, make some changes, but that'll be coming up. Nothing needs to be done right now except deer season needs to show up here for rifle, and I need to put a chair here, and I should be good to go. Just walk over here and get set up for opening day. If you like this video and you want more videos like this, comment down below. Thank you so much for watching me. My name is Corey. This is the Relentless Sportsman channel. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.